mixed fam oh, mixed
That's me.
family farm, wheat, sheep, cattle, cropping, cotton, everything. Yeah, that's probably enough. We started doing this back in April, I think, with this agent stuff. And it's been very interesting, and I think it's got a lot of legs in ag, which is I actually thought it wouldn't back at the start. So yeah, I've been converted.
Do you want to
Who's
pass the ball?
I don't know who's next. I don't know. I don't run. I can't run these Zooms. So
Okay,
you, David.
G'day, David Ward. I'm actually Andrew's brother. I use some AI tools myself, and I was fairly fearful of all of these things in the beginning as well, but am embracing them these days to help and assist and get the good out of them before maybe they do turn evil on us. I don't know, but very interested from my personal use, but also how we can use these type of tools for other farmers. I work for Lone Bio. We do a biological seed treatment and carbon projects offerings. So anything that can help streamline farmer efficiency, particularly knowing a lot of farmers hate of paperwork and regulatory stuff. So if we can streamline that, that's kind of cool. So yeah, thank you.
throw you, throw the ball. You're on mute, David, so I'll go to John Welsh.
Thanks, Wardy. John Welsh. I'm on a cattle place northeast of Gyra, and we also have an ag research company called Ag Econ, mainly made up of economists. But look, I'm a little bit like David Ward. I haven't invested in this much and probably procrastinated to the point where I need to dive in and have a go. I've seen what it can do, but I've never used it in a desktop capacity to be an assistant. So I'm really looking forward to this session. Thanks, Wardy.
Cool. Next on my screen is Rochelle. Rochelle, no, you can't do video because of Telstra.
Yeah. Hey everyone. I'm Rochelle. I am the Cotton Info Regional Extension Officer for the Macquarie. Yeah, unfortunately my video is freezing because of Telstra. So that's why my video is off.
I've got next on mine is Russell.
Hi everyone, I'm a corporate lawyer based in Melbourne. I'm helping set up the terms and conditions, legals, and other regulatory stuff behind the scenes for the assistant rollout.
And Rowan.
I'm part of the regen team, finance side of things, and fully under the yoke of the AI overlords now. So I'm spending my days getting beaten up by them.
Mick and Kirsty, are you there?
Yeah, mate. Mick Hall and Kirst. We're at farming at Trangie and been using the agent now for what, Wardy, a couple of weeks, I suppose.
2 weeks, I reckon.
And just
Maybe 2 weeks, I reckon.
oh, can you hear? 2 weeks, yeah. And yeah, been having a bit of a play with it, and yeah, really, really intrigued by where we can go with it, and yeah, really keen to hear what Gilly's been up to.
Awesome. Hey, Gilly, I might just throw it back to you. Are you there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No.
Um, right. So I think I was in one of the first three or four or five farmers that got hold of this stuff, and I've been with it right from the beginning, which has been really interesting. And I've said to a lot of people that I always thought AI was artificial insemination in cattle, not anything to do with this sort of stuff. Um, when we first did it, I was on the first Zoom and they said just start talking to it, and I felt like a dickhead talking to a computer when there was no one on the other end. But it started actually really making sense, and I didn't really realize what had the power of AI or what it could do. And then I sent it a file out of our John Deere Ops Center and it asked me straight away why one paddock or field, as it calls in op center, why the fuel use was so high as opposed to the fields, and it was because we'd been deep ripping a paddock, and I thought, oh, that's interesting, and we started throwing it more info, and then it just sort of kept surprising me, and I got to the point it was right back when Donald was having his hissy fit and throwing a few bombs around the Strait of Hormuz, and I started getting it to give me a daily update on what was going on with diesel pricing and fertilizer, which was interesting. I mean, everything I first did with it was stuff that I could do, but it probably would have taken me time. So I was getting it to automating a task for it to do for me and just sending me a report. Weather, things like that, first thing in the morning, interesting articles out of the land or Beef Central or Sheep Central, things like that that I might be interested in. And after a week or so, it was getting to know exactly what I was doing. I'm not sure how, but it was sort of exactly how we were farming and stuff. And then I thought, I'll try and build a cash flow. Years ago, be 25 years ago probably, I built a massive Excel spreadsheet with interlinked gross margins and everything, and it took me months to get it all to work properly so that we could send the cash flow off. Well, back then it was actually printing it out. That was even probably, before email was really a big thing. We're printing a spreadsheet, a massive 20-page thing to go to the bank with every year. And I sort of didn't give it much information to start with, just to see how to build it up. And probably within about 25 minutes, I got it to got it to have the full deal, like the full backbone of a decent cash flow. And then I took photos of things like a couple of John Deere lease documents, some rates notices, things like that. Just took photos of them, and it inputted the data into all the cells in exactly the right spot, which blew me away. And then I filled out the form, auto-filled right back through to it, the cash flow. And that was pretty interesting. I then gave it 12 months of our nutrient supply statements, and I got it to, and I sort of didn't really understand what I was doing when I was sending it all these statements that I just lifted out off the portal, and it came back, and I asked the agent. I said, I need you to organise all of these by line item, as a line item by active ingredient, and then a cost per unit of purchase, an average cost per unit of purchase over the whole 12 months. And it took about 40 seconds to do that. And I think there was 700 odd line items, which blew me away. And everything I checked on it seemed to be right. So then I started doing things with it. Well, what happens if urea is at that much? If urea is going to be $1,400, what's the difference between our average price for the last 12 months for the 500 odd ton that we bought? What's that mean to us? And it could have a meaningful conversation to me with that. As we started getting into cotton picking, I sort of dropped the ball a bit with it because I was busy. And my wife and I had been trying to buy this is a weird thing to do, but we've been trying to buy a flat in Wagga for our eldest daughters just started uni in Wagga, and units in Wagga are really hard to find. They're sold before they're on the market, or they're sort of up on realestate.com for 6 hours before they get bought. And I tasked the agent to send me any new apartments, 2 bedrooms apartments in central Wagga with one car space and at least one bathroom between 400 and 600 grand. I wanted it to tell me that at 3 o'clock every afternoon, any new ones. And I was sitting in a cotton picker and my phone beeped. I picked it up. I hit the link to this apartment. I thought, oh, that looks interesting. I haven't seen that one. Rang up the agent even before I'd even rang up my wife. Rang up the agent, and it hadn't been sold. I'd organised organised my daughter to go around and have a walk through the next day. We had an offer accepted that night, that was pretty. I was pretty blown away about how quick that all worked. But what was interesting is when I asked the agent to give me all the information on that unit, it searched everywhere and found everything, and then it started building up a um a financial file on, if we had rental returns on what it would be, and was, everything in it, and it told me, wanted to know how much the solicitor's fees would cost, and I got it to go and find the stamp duty, and it went on and it got all this information, and it was just so quick. I mean, anyone can go and find all that information with themselves, but trying to getting it to do it and then just in a minute, like it was, while I'm sitting on a cotton picker, was pretty impressive. Where we I moved on, so I wanted to try and work out how we could actually, take jobs away from us. So I got it. Was a bit of rooting around. We're still using Phoenix as our accounting program, and it took a bit of mucking around to get it hooked up, but it did our and I probably didn't do it the right way the first time. Didn't teach it to do it properly, but it actually filled out our monthly cash flow reports, all the transactions and everything in Phoenix. And I thought, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a big time saver for my wife. Um, then we decided sort of when it started to rain and we're doing a bit of stock work and we've got as part of Phoenix, we use this Phoenix Live, which has a livestock tab to control. Well, it gives us a place so we can fill in when we drench, when we drench or vaccinate or join or landmark or whatever, and what paddock stock are in. So I thought, yeah, that's maybe I could build something better because the Phoenix one's clunky as hell. It's terrible. You can't put stuff in properly in the paddock, or I don't know how to put stuff in properly in the paddock in it. So I thought, oh, I'll muck around, and we were sowing and Starlink are on tractors now, so I had pretty good service, and I could sit there and talk to this agent, which everyone thinks I'm weird sending messages and talking to a phone, but away we go. And I started asking it, how could we do something like this? And we had a phone call to Luke, who's the brains behind these other two in London, and he hooked me up with this. It's a private web page, I think. I don't know what it is, but no one else can get into it. I think that's what it's called. And this is the exciting thing that we've got to. So if I try and share this, I think I should be able to. So this is hang on, I just have to move this out of the road. This is our own private, whatever you want to call it, dashboard. It's a dashboard. That's what we're calling it at the minute. It's a dashboard. So the season totals for the rainfall, it picks up through an automated rain gauge that we've got in our irrigation. These numbers are all they're not 100% right yet, the numbers, because I'm still building everything. I've got a map here, this is where everything sort of happens. So I might start with a livestock one because those are pretty interesting. So it's sort of based roughly on the Phoenix one. The agent picked up our map out of Phoenix and put it over a Google Earth image, which actually isn't Google Earth. It's some other crowd that I don't know. I was having trouble one night and I said, I'm not mucking around with this anymore. You're on your own. And I woke up the next morning and this was already in it. And it blew me away. It had done it without me even knowing. So if I want to do something with a mobber sheet, we can click on the pin and then it comes up. Got people in the road here. Wonder if I can. No, whoops. Yeah, so we can move sheet, wherever we want. within the thing in it, or so we can, I can move sheep from paddock to paddock. When we're treating sheep, we can, all of these things are all, so if I want to treat 100 sheep out of this paddock with, let's say, a 5-in-1 booster, I can add the whole thing in here and it'll tell me exactly what it's going to cost and I can save that treatment. Whoever's doing it, you can put it in then. We've got production tabs, so joining, how many rams you're putting in, and then a lambing percentage calculator, which it put that in. I didn't even ask it to put that in. Our scanning results when we preg test, landmarking. We can you put all your information in, and then weaning and how you wean, which way your weaners go, what paddocks they go to, if you treat them. It's pretty interesting. I reckon that I can get all this. I've built all this myself, and it actually works well enough for me to be able to use, which is pretty cool, I reckon. Yeah, so that's sort of, and eventually this all, I suppose there's no point collecting this sort of data unless we're going to use it for something. So our gap audit for our lambs was due the other day, and we fed all the old manual information into the gap, into the agent, and it filled out our gap audit. Next year, when all this is 100% right, I'll just be able to tell the agent, go and do our gap audit. It's got spots for NDVI numbers, NVD numbers in it. It's got spots to anything you could possibly have is in it. Whenever I just tell the agent that I want a tab to do this, that, or the other, and it'll actually work it out. So I was just showing Wardy earlier on. So NDVI images are, I didn't even think about this, and someone was talking to somebody somewhere else about an NDVI image. And I thought, oh yeah, that'd be interesting to put on this dashboard, for cropping and for the livestock sort of side. It's got built into it. So if I move a mob of sheep from one paddock to another, it'll calculate grazing days, auto calculate grazing days with how many head, through a dry sheep equivalent basis, which I thought was pretty neat. Then I asked the agent about NDVI. So it turns out you can get 10-meter NDVI images for free through Amazon. It's just like a Sentinel one that we all use for our cropping. So it built me this. I got a bit of help with Luke, who's the guru, to build me this. So this is the 23rd of April. So if you look in here, hopefully you can all see my cursors. These 3 fields were defoliated and this field wasn't defoliated. The red's our res. So it hadn't started raining. These greens are all heavily timbered. So I press play and let it flick through as it goes, and then it starts raining. We've defoliated this other field, and grass starts to grow, and it comes to there. Oh, and so I've got the last 12 months worth of data in that, which I think, eventually that's going to be really, really handy once we ground truth it with grazing days and when we should be pulling stock out of paddocks and locking them up to feed them. This is a free elevation tool, which I never knew existed. I think it's perhaps somewhere out of the DPI, I think. It's pretty handy. So if we go across to a cropping tab, so this is a cropping tab that we've built. So this is wheat. It's picked up a lot of this stuff out of our op center, John Deere Op Center. We're still working a bit on that, with Luke and I working a bit on trying to get that 100% right. So we'll be able to pull the full data set out of it. So when you want to plant something, you just fill it out or import the John Deere data, and it should, if you're filling everything right in the tractor, it should just come across 100% straight away. When you're spraying stuff, you can put in all your different chemicals. So if I want to, all of these different chemicals, I can put in clethodim and add product, and then it'll bring in another tab for another product to put in the whole way through, and it'll save it. There's spots for documents and links down here, things like recommendations from the agronomist. And I've also got the agent to build me a spray record sheet, so I can sit in a tractor. It can either pull the data out of my John Deere, or I can just sit in the tractor and talk to my phone about what I'm spraying, in what paddock, what the weather's doing, what nozzles, whatever, and it'll fill it out for me. The fertilizer tab, which I haven't quite got right yet. And then if you want to see what's actually happened, so this is the feed of what's been going on. So it's still a bit bare at the minute, but it'll get better as as I get more data put into it. I think, to make it all work. So we mucked around I mucked around with some of these cotton fields with the history. So these are just some different things. So I think this will be that's Wardy's reco for what we should be using, and then went to the wrong spot. Might have to go back, have to work this better. Here we go. So then this should be what Matt Thomas putting it out. Like, so that's through a thing from Rebel Ag, who's the aerial people. So all of that data, I've always struggled with data, with people telling me we need to keep data. And I've always struggled with what the fuck for? Why are we keeping all this data? We've never been able to use anything. And now I find there is a really good way to be able to use this data and actually make it meaningful, and someone else to analyze the data. Our agronomist, Wardy, our agronomist, the other night rang me, and he's revived a couple of old laptops with old leaf sample tests of some nutrient profiles out of some pedioles, and he had them all in spreadsheets, but the old laptops didn't have email capability anymore. And I said, I'll just take a photo of the screen. So Wardy literally took a photo of the laptop screen with his phone and then sent me 2 photos, and I put it I didn't, the agent put it into a brand new Excel file, which I think's amazing, that it did it. And yeah, then we can eventually, I will get that into this somehow, when I get to it. How do I stop the screen sharing? Stop share. I think, righto. So that's basically what I've been up to. Hasn't been easy, but it's been interesting, and it's made me think more about how we do things and why we do things, which I think is an interesting point. It's an interesting learning point, that if we can, is there better ways, or why, what are we, how are we keeping this? We're really driving especially in our sheep enterprise, really driving fertility massively. And to the point now where all our NLIS tags are all kept now online through this bloke with a database, or this thing with a database on whether the lamb was actually scanned as a twin, and then when it was it was lambing as a twin. And if we can nearly get it now, we're not far away from being able to having. So if its mother was born as a twin and then it was lambed as a twin, we know that there's probably more genetics in that than there is feed. So being able to do that, yourself with an Excel file is probably doable, but I don't have the time or the inclination. So it's just cool to have someone else doing this stuff, I reckon. Um, Righto. Is that enough, Wardy, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I think now we'll pull up and just enable people to, because you went through quite a learning curve, even though April to July is what, 4 months. You've basically built an ag tech that would have taken tens of millions of dollars of investment to build and years to build, but you built it through your phone and conversations with an AI. I think there'll probably be people that have got questions for you, Gilly. Um, Mick, I know you're going to get on a plane soon, so maybe I'll get you to ask any questions you or Kirsty have first before you have to jump on a plane. You're on mute, by the way.
Yeah, mate. No, we've got a bit of time. We don't board till 1:30, so no, no. It's the when you the building of it, um, Gilly. I mean, you're just asking it to do it, obviously, and then it comes back with a version of it, and you go, no, not like this, like that, or change the formatting, or put that box here, or put that box there, or how did you go through that process?
Yeah, so that's an interesting story. So I started off sitting on a tractor sowing what we're sowing, and just started off talking to it, saying, and I worked out the best way to get the value out of it was through a workflow. So I started off doing livestock, which was a shit fight. I should have started off doing cropping because it's a lot more linear and calendar wise to get it basically right. Um, so the workflow. So we just talked about, and it was just I was sitting there talking because I'm not very good typing on my phone. I was talking to it and saying, it would ask me a question saying, when you landmark, how do you landmark? What happens at landmarking? Then when you're weaning, what happens with the lambs? How does it all work? The whole thing. And then it was just building up, I don't know if it's a database or an idea about how we do things. And then it would send me through a workflow, and then it'd say, right, and I did pinch paper screenshots off Phoenix and I threw it into it and I said, I want it to look like this, so that we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, because, I'm too stupid to learn a new program and I don't want to have to learn a new program. So we just copied things. I copied the sort of the formatting, um, and then yeah, just refined it. I worked out after I'd built a few tabs that you're better off asking one. A big thing with AI that I've learned is getting lots of options instead of just getting it to give you one option, getting it to really make it work. Get it to give you the option and then tease that option out and then say, no, that's bullshit. I don't want it. Throw it away. Let's start again. Go back. It's to get it. It's a lot easier to build it right the first time than it is to change. Maybe it's getting easier to change now for me because I've got a bit more of the lingo about what a field is, what a tab is, drop down, all this stuff. I got it to build me last night a terms glossary so that when I want it to change something in it, I can just go to that and say, yeah, you've got to change this pin to something else, or make it work like that. As opposed to me saying, yeah, I want it to look like the other page, and it's like, which other page? Because there's thousands of them. One thing I didn't actually show you, I might show you everyone quickly if we just hang on, which
Really
was
just
really
on.
interesting. Share. Um, so Luke, I had a we don't have service out here at all, which is a big problem when we're doing stuff in the paddock, and I think that's why Phoenix doesn't work. And no one thought I could do this, um, but I've actually built this thing, um, actually built this tab, um, so I can do stuff, and it's only working on livestock at the minute, but I can do stuff in the paddock with this when it's offline. And then it auto syncs. There's a sync button up here in the top right, and I just press sync, and it will actually auto sync as soon as I come back into service. which is what Phoenix is supposed to do, but it doesn't. It's a freaking nightmare. This thing actually works. I've sat at home and gone to airplane mode and swapped it out, that's a big
Wow.
thing out here. When I told Luke when I told Luke that I'd done that, he was amazed. He said, "No, that can't happen." And I was like, "No, it fucking works. It actually works." Um, yeah, so I've built that into it as well, which will help a lot. Probably cropping's not such a big one now because it'll be pulling most of the info out of the tractors.
Mm.
Um, but in the sheep yards and cattle yards, I think that's really valuable because I know a few of you know my brother, and if he doesn't do things, if we don't have it easy and do it when we're doing it, we all bloody won't do it. So that's important. You do things, as soon as you shut the gate, you grab your phone, everyone's got their phones in their pockets. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
moved that mob of sheep there. I'll move those cattle there. Um,
So, so Gilly, and this is probably, I'm looking at this because the formatting does look a lot familiar. And then just I suppose, and you look at the risk for for the ag tech companies, and Morty, you and I were talking about that sort of this morning and over the last couple of days. Like I just see, some people that have invested a lot of money into a lot of software, and then all of a sudden we go up and, build our own like this, and it looks a bit like someone else's from a legality standpoint. How do we? I know there's a lawyer here somewhere on the call. I saw. I'd be really interested to hear like what are our risks here.
Russell?
How's that bus for you,
Well,
Russell?
it's to do with the terms and conditions of what you've copied from, effectively. So they can either kick you off or they might try and claim some sort of damages if they've got their own system locked down in that manner. I guess I wouldn't be trying to replicate what someone else has already built. That's a pretty big flag, but you can definitely learn. I mean, it's not like they own the process. So,
And I suppose,
you're trying to improve the situation for your own benefit. So if it doesn't look like theirs, you're the one that's sort of teaching it, really.
yeah, I suppose, but it's one of those things, and that's where I just don't know from an exposure perspective that, yeah, if how different does it have to look? Because I know I was talking to Gilly the other day about this. We use a lot of different software, and there's bits of it that I like and bits of it that I don't, and yeah, and it's about pulling those bits that you like and what works well. Yeah, I mean, it's like anything, I suppose. You can get ideas from anywhere, but that just it made me wonder because Kirsten and I sort of looked at it and said, it looks a lot like Phoenix.
Is
And
there
then you are
no
taking screenshots.
If there's no commercial gain though, I'm not anything
Yeah.
but commercial gain, which is, like that's another thing that I think comes into it. It's the only
But they're going
commercial
to lose
gain.
you as a client, aren't they?
Well, they're going to lose. It's definitely
So
going to
there's a
lose me as
loss
a
for
client
them.
out of like I, the agent says it won't build accounting software. I don't know why. Um,
Tax tables.
um, but yeah, they're definitely going to lose us out of the livestock and cropping side. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's just the reality of AI, right? There's a lot of sectors
and
going to be disrupted. Like this is just another one.
and it's got to work. Like it's got to work how we actually farm. Like
Mm,
when we've been buying trade cows and they turn up and to put them into Phoenix, you to go home getting a freaking computer to do it. Like that's just a
mm,
shit show. That's
mm.
not right. It's got to be easy and user friendly. Um, and that's the thing about this AI. And we're getting all of our data at the minute from our rainfall data from Porosity from Tomo because that's who we use. And I didn't understand, and I should have, I suppose, realized that AI doesn't have eyes, can't see anything. So it reads, even when you send it to look at a website, it's trying to read the data behind the website. So to ring up Tomo, and I said, I need the API logins for all our sensors, which I had no idea what they were. So now it's actually pulling data out. So a channel height sensor that we've got, or that I look at on Tomo's page, shows me a graph, but on this, it'll show me actual numbers.
Do you want to
So
pull that up? Hey, Gilly, you've got that on your dashboard too, don't you? Water management.
I don't think I do.
I've seen your
Um,
porosity thing somewhere.
um, getting in a different page here. Be good if I built this, but don't know how to use it. Um, yeah, so these are well, this is interesting. So this is our rainfall chart for the last, so we've got two automated gauges. Um, and then this one's a manual gauge that I just tell it and it comes in. So these are what they look like as rainfall events. I haven't built into that. I don't think I've built into the other sensors yet.
Oh, okay, I thought those graphs below the rain
Oh, they're just
delta.
rainfall graphs. Yeah. No, no, I don't. So I've got different links. Like you can just put anything in this. It's amazing how much you can chuck in it. Yeah.
And now that you've got a website which you've built for your farm, how much has your way of interacting gone from using WhatsApp on phone versus WhatsApp on the computer versus entering it into your custom website? Like, has that changed over time, or do you still just use voice notes primarily? Where are you at with usage?
Typing voice notes, telling it to go and find stuff. I'm trying to get it. I think the biggest thing with this, to make this stuff work, it's got to be working for us. So it's got to go and do it. We've got to get used to getting it to automate stuff and give it the login. So it's got I was login. It's got my, um, all these different logins. Every login, it's got my login to the land. It's got my login to my cloud account where our invoices are kept. It's got logins to all this stuff because that's important. It goes in and files shit that I don't. I'm hopeless. Like my filing system's big stack of paper on a computer that can't find anything, but it goes in and files everything
Hmm.
and money. And by doing that, it actually builds a better idea of what you're doing in the background, I think. Sorry, Wardy, that's a bit of a long way around that story, but
No, that's good. John Welsh, Claire Welsh, any thoughts, questions from you guys?
I think the voice recognition thing is the biggest value add for me. I hate sitting there. I'm too impatient to sit there and write a text message. I'm too slow. I mean, my kids type with two fingers and two thumbs in about 10 seconds. It takes me half an hour to type something into my phone. It drives me mad. And I hence don't do it as often as I should, when you're doing on-farm recording. So, Gilly, I'm keen to go into a bit more depth on, that side of things, because if it encourages you to be more accurate and collect more data, that's a huge value add. And then particularly, as you say, if you can build up a repository that you can actually make better decisions with, well, that's where the other value add is. It's all sort of snowballing on top of one another, the benefits then.
so the turns out WhatsApp's not the greatest. It's only got a 2 minute limit on your voice message on WhatsApp, but I think we're all going to be on Telegram pretty soon.
Mm.
I don't know what its setup is, but actually, when you're sitting talking, telling someone to do something or what you're doing, 2 minutes is a fair amount of time. When my agent tells me stuff or asks me questions about how I want to do things, it'll give me 15 different questions all at once, and I'm like, go away, give me one question at a time. I just want one question. I'll answer that question. I don't want to scroll through 15 pages of crap on WhatsApp finding out what was going on. Just one question at a time. And then, yeah, you just tell it to, put that to the back or bring that to the forward. Now I've got ideas files there's files all through this agent about ideas on the dashboard, parts numbers and stupid parts numbers that I can never remember, all that sort of stuff. So you can just say, what oil filter goes on the 6 BT Cummins, and bang, comes straight out. Um, instead of having notes, like my notes on my phone, that's where everything was kept. Now it's just all going to be kept in this, I think. Um, yeah, for things like that, when we do oil changes, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, that's where it's all going to be. It it somehow, I don't know, I must have taken a photo. We got a RIC loan. I must have sent it some RIC information, and the interest was due on the 3rd or the 4th of July, and this thing popped up and it said, "Oh, make sure you got enough money in the account for the RIC loan." I was like, "Fuck, where did that come from?" Like these reminders that I didn't even ask it to find out, or didn't even ask it to remind me. It did it, that blew me away. I was like, "Oh yeah, right, okay, yep, better go and check that." Um, I haven't given it access to my bank account, and I don't think I will. Um, but I know some people are talking about doing it, yeah, I suppose that's a personal thing, but we won't.
That was a question I had, Gilly, about what are your fears and the likes on the security of your data and the security of accessing even your land subscription, because I know Op Center is pretty secure, and there's a scary amount of data in that side of things that no one's ever been able to unpack. But this thing might actually be able to utilize some of that historical data that goes way back. But what are your fears on that data side of things?
Um, I'm a pretty open book with data. I think maybe that's part of being a cotton grower. We're pretty good at sharing information and sharing ideas. So it doesn't worry me. The if someone hacked in and saw my spray records, couldn't really give a shit. Or elevation data, be a pretty boring person to be doing, looking for that sort of thing. That's why it's sort of, there is guide rails. You can set guide rails with this agent pretty well. And I have set some guide rails with it that, it's not allowed to do, you know, it's not supposed to send me a message from 9:30 at night till 6 o'clock in the morning, things like that. Um, just queue them all up and send them later on. I don't want to be woken up by a fucking computer in the middle of the night. Um, I think they're important, having those guardrails and working out what you do and don't. But yeah, I'm yeah, I'm not too worried about the thing the probably more what worries me more is how much data is it going to have, and when will it get confused with the data? That's my thing. If we're just in 12 months' time, how much data have I given it, and will it be able to make sense of it all? I think is more of an issue for me. But time will tell.
Have you asked it some curly questions that, yeah, you were pretty surprised by the information or I suppose, the views that it came back with?
It it didn't it's pretty maybe apolitical. It didn't know if Pauline was going to win the next election. um there's a lot of stuff. There is a lot of stuff that it can and can't do. And I don't know. I haven't talked to Wardy and Luke about that, about how, if when they set them up, if there's things that they tell it that they can and can't do. But yeah, you could have a conversation with it if you wanted to. It'd be weird as hell, but you could. Yeah.
Hey, Gilly, John's on his way out, but he
All right.
said thank
Thanks,
you.
Welshie. Thanks, Claire.
Hey, Gilly, maybe talk to some of
Thank
those
you.
guardrails that we've put around your open claw are like protecting you from yourself. You mentioned you went out to look up a dirt file on someone and it said it wouldn't do that, for example. There are
Yeah,
some guardrails in there. Yeah.
yeah, and you can tell it things to do as well. So yeah, tell it things that it can't do, I guess is a better way of putting it. Yeah. Um, that's very interesting. And I know I talked to Mick about this the other day, where the limit, where it ends up, I honestly don't know. But if I can free my wife up for 3 or 4 hours a month from sitting in the office doing Phoenix, I'm in the good books. Which is, that's a good thing. And all this other stuff, the spray records and compliance. We're just getting burnt with compliance on everything nowadays. Everything, it all happens, we're just so much compliance shit going on, and you could spend hours in the office doing this, and maybe that's what this is designed for.
Gilly, just a couple of thoughts. We've obviously got past records in Maya like you would too, and we use SafeAg systems and Phoenix and blah, blah, blah. Have you tried to get some of that past information, like from Maya? Obviously, we've got years of records. Have you tried to, um,
Send them across.
yeah,
No, I haven't yet. And that's an interesting one. Maybe that would have been easier if I did send them across, and it would have, worked out what was the way to keep records and stuff, perhaps, as opposed to me telling it what I want it to keep. With our withholding periods and stuff like that and our ASIs, that, when you treat a sheep, it'll it comes up with a little red flag in that paddock next to its pin number, next to its pin, that mob pin, saying that you're under an ESI or a WHP. Um, that was pretty interesting. I think maybe that is a better way, sending it a heap of data and saying, "Hey, make this more user friendly for me, and how can I add this stuff?" I don't know. Good question, Kirst.
and it's pretty valuable. Yeah, and good. It's valuable information that if we stop using those programs, it's information we sort of want to try and keep if we can. Like, we've got SafeAg systems that have got 2 years worth of maintenance on everything embedded into it. And if we go away from that, it'd be good to know that we can pull it over first, whether
Yeah, and
we can
I
or
mean,
not. I'm not sure. I did
there'd
make a
be an
call to.
export. There's an export. Like this thing can read anything. It'll read a PDF, a photo. You export that data to it. I'm sure it'll have a way.
Mm.
Well, they're probably cloud-based anyway, aren't they? All those
Yeah.
systems are cloud-based, so to be able to drop it down into it somehow.
Well, yeah, I mean, I called SafeAg Systems and said, all my policies that I've uploaded, how do I get them back? And they said, oh, you just have to copy them all. And I went, what? Because they originally told me, I said, if we move away from you, am I going to be able to get my documents back that I've then amended online? And they said, yeah, no drama. That won't be a problem. Well, it kind of is when you got to copy each one of them back again.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, but all the other maintenance and stuff that's on checklists and stuff that you don't want to be copying. I'm hoping there's just going to be an easy data file that AI can sift through and download into a new program. I don't know. It's
We have
surely.
some
interesting.
experience with most of the, well, AgriWeb Mobile, etc. will let you take down a CSV file, Kirsty, of all the historical moves and all the historical NLIS tags. It's probably 2 or 3 different download functions, and you've moved that historical data across. Source documents or iterations to source documents. I'm not familiar with SafeAg, but they should have a download button for you. And then from your laptop, if you download it on your laptop, then just upload it into the Telegram, and it'll then be in your virtual private server, right?
I hoped it was going to be, I just don't want to do every single document,
You should probably
which
get
is
it
what
as a
they
zip
advise.
file.
Yeah.
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 Give
Okay.
it your access and tell it to do it.
Well, that's what I sort of, there's got to be a bit of a
That's the best way to do it.
And
privacy
it'll
problem here,
develop
isn't
it'll
there?
develop a sub agent. It'll do it in the background, and you can talk to it in the foreground.
And do they know that you've done that? They will, I suppose.
Well, when I rang up, I was getting help out of Phoenix when I was trying to do something. I rang up and they said, "Oh, this is a funny looking server name. What's that?" And I was like, well, yeah,
Mm.
it's AI. Well, Phoenix have got their own AI now as well. They're releasing their own AI in their for accounting stuff to enter
Okay.
stuff. Um, yeah,
They've got to keep moving, don't they, these programs, or they're going to lose everyone.
I think so. I think so.
Mm.
I don't particularly like Phoenix. I think it's bloody bit archaic, but it's really good on getting stuff out the back end, like information out of it. Um, I want to get to the point, and I've haven't done it completely through everything, but with having it using, getting everything so granular down to, the oil filters, the amount of oil filters you buy from John Deere and all that sort of information. Um, so that invoices, you get complete granularity on every cent you spend and what it's for. I think, that's, I don't know if that's too much information or not, but it'd be interesting, why did we spend so much money on this year? Why did we buy 54 gates this year? Where did they all go? That sort of stuff, being able to question it. It'll question you for, the things that are weird that don't stand out. So yeah.
It's the
You know,
pattern recognition that it's really good with, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's sort of like, um, like to your point earlier on, like we collect all this data. Well, it's only good if we do something with it, and then it takes time to sift through all that and actually make something of all that data. Where you just go, you give to that. I mean, that's what it does. Yeah, it recognizes the patterns and just summarizes that for you, doesn't it? That's so you can actually
yeah.
do something with it now and
Yeah.
make really well informed decisions, based off your own data.
Yeah. And, sending it stuff out of our AI, our Gallagher reader,
Mm,
when you're weighing cattle. And like
Mm.
I asking, you can ask the questions, how many Hereford cows have we bought in the last 4 lots that have turned up? And bang, it just pops them back out.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
But you
for me
start
to
to give
go,
it, but you
yeah,
give it historic data of grazing days. You've got, historically out of paddocks, and tell it to map it all. And where's our highest producing, most productive paddocks? Where's our least productive paddocks? The NDVI imagery you could put over the top of that. You could put, soil map, tests over the top, all that sort of stuff. OptiWeigh in there, correlate the weight gain with the pasture that's in there, but have it all go back to one spot and give you really good data off your own place.
yeah.
That's
We
where
know
the
you're
power
talking,
is, to have it all in one spot
yeah.
instead of having Phoenix, Ag World, Safe Ag Systems, like
Mm.
to have one that knows everything.
But
So
yeah,
talking about the software companies, the ones that I really think are going to struggle first are the pear trees.
yeah,
This Kiwi one, this FAARM, all of those ones, they're just, you know, unless, I don't know, some people are builders, some people are users. Um, so maybe the users will still, go to that model, but I think eventually everyone's just going to walk away from those software companies because they can just do it themselves and get data that you want. Consulting data, be able to tell your agronomist, well, what are we, when he turns up going and he says, oh, we should be doing this. And you go, well, this is the historic data of this paddock, or this is, with that many ewes, those ewes all had twin lambs. So we've got to be doing that with them and this with that. And, a repository of data that actually gives back is extremely important because
Gilly,
that's our next point of difference in farming is doing better with our data, I think.
the challenges that these tech companies have got, like conference that we're at the other day, AgriWeb were there, and they were presenting, and I didn't realize, but they're still not turning a dollar. They're still in that
Build phase.
developmental stage. Like, and you think how long they've been around for. That's the challenge. Yeah, trying to that they're up against. Mm.
Gilly, there's two things I'd like to see. One is what, Rochelle, you're probably the agronomist around here, how extension might work. Like, Gilly, how do you want your agronomist to work with you? Agronomy people like Rochelle, what sort of impact does having a farmer like Gilly with an assistant have on you? And then the last bit I wanted to do before we kind of ran into 12 o'clock was if anybody's keen to kind of get the guidance that Gilly's assistant has learnt for him and then have that applied to their first 30 days on the farm assistant kind of journey, well, we can organise that for you as well. And that'll be, us seeing whether it's easier for you having a Gilly roadmap compared to the expense, time, effort that it took for Gilly to get to his without a roadmap. And so we just want to test. We assume there's an efficiency, but maybe not. So we're looking for a tester. So Rochelle, a comment from you, and Gilly, a comment from you as to how you want agronomists and specialist advisors to interact with you. Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good question. I'm probably not in the game as much as I was before as an agronomist, so it's probably a little bit harder for me to comment on it. Um, but I think it could be very useful, the fact that it's all in one location. I do like that. It was very hard as an agronomist prior to get information all in one spot. So I think from that aspect, it'll be very handy. I think it potentially could pose some risks. Like historical stuff is great, but moving forward with new chemicals and stuff coming on the market, there could be opportunities to change up things which it might not pick up on. That's probably just one comment that I've got for that.
Thanks, Michelle. Gilly, how do you want your, picture? Uh, you've built this. I think Claire might have access, your wife, but nobody else yet has access to this. Is that right? Or how do
No,
you want it?
Claire doesn't have access yet. No one does, only me at the minute. But moving forward on the agronomy side, well, the biggest case in point was the other day was our agronomist who's been our agronomist for 20 something years, 20, it'll be 23 years, I suppose, 22 or 3 years. Him going and finding leaf samples from 2004 and 5 on an old laptop and then sending me a photo of them, that's a case in point, isn't it? If we have all of that information into one spot, so we can go, what's happening? Well, look at that. Our phosphorus levels have increased over time, so we're doing the right thing or whatever it is. I think Kirst saying, about dragging their stuff out of, all the different programs that they subscribe to, into the one spot that's an important, it's the same sort of thing, isn't it? Having everything on the same spot, I think I don't know, is that what you think, Mick and Kirst?
I think that it'll be more powerful when it's all in one spot because it's all, interacting as one, not five separate programs, just out on their own.
Yeah, and trying to get the actual information out of it is the hardest thing. Well, that's the hardest thing, is trying to all this information that we've got, yield maps for 20 years, and we're not doing anything with it.
Yeah,
No.
no, that's right. And if you've got that and kept that and you start putting that in and then and it does something with the data, it's it's just who knows where we can go with it. But I think I was just saying to Kirsten on the way down, like we do Microsoft, we use what's the word, the shopping list, what's that one?
To do.
Oh, to-do list, Microsoft To Do. That's our town shopping list that everyone's on with that, but you could, that's separate. And then you've got boys are on Maya, and then the boys have got an AgWorld login, then they've got an SAS login as well. Oh, you got to jump on here, then jump off there, then jump on there. And, if it was just all in one spot and they've all got different access to, different levels. Yeah, that's someone's wondering me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's happening. Oh, good.
Yeah, we've gone an hour, Gilly. I'm happy for you to carry on, but also aware that we kind of said we'd run for an hour. Has anyone got any questions for Gilly, or can we tie a bow in it rather? Oh, Well, can I say thank you, Gilly? You're very generous. You did this on Friday and again today to share what your sort of journey has been with. Uh, yeah, Mick and Kirst, as I mentioned, we're trying a new model on Fable, different harness to everybody else. If you'd like to have a crash test dummy on that higher model and using Gilly's guide, we'll see whether there's, if you're interested, we can see whether there's some efficiencies for you guys that Gilly wasn't able to get. Yeah.
Can you hear me or not?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, we just my call came in. I thought we'd dropped our audio. Yeah, no, keen to try that for sure. Yep.
All right. Well,
Thanks, Gilly. Good job.
Yeah, really appreciate that,
Yeah.
Gilly. It was
Yeah,
really,
thank
really
you.
interesting.
Thanks
And I
for
just
sharing.
think, yeah, it's only limited by your imagination, right? Like it's just who knows where you go in the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years. Like it's unfathomable.
Months.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit easier talking to you now, Mick, than when I was sitting on a bloody horse.
Yeah.
Bit of a juxtaposition, walking along on a horse talking about AI. But anyway,
Yeah. Oh, good. No, appreciate it, mate.
all good.
thank you,
All right,
Thanks,
everyone.
guys.
Thanks.
And thanks,
I'll
40.
have to go.
Thanks, Ron.
See you.
All right.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye.
See ya.